Imagine this. You wake up one morning, reach for your phone, and open your favorite news site or social media feed, only to discover that the rules of the internet, rules that have governed free information for decades, have changed overnight. The invisible currents that allowed information to flow unhindered have shifted. In that moment, a silent revolution is underway, one that is already reshaping the future of artificial intelligence, digital publishing, and the global economy itself. At the center of this digital earthquake is Cloudflare, a technology company whose servers quietly and efficiently route approximately 1/5 of the world's entire internet traffic. That's right, 1 in every 5 bytes that traverses the web passes through their infrastructure. With a single update, Cloudflare has dramatically changed the relationship between content creators and artificial intelligence companies, by default blocking AI bots from scraping website content unless explicit permission is granted. This move is not just a technical update, it's a tectonic shift in the balance of power. For years, artificial intelligence firms like OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, and many others have built their empires atop mountains of data harvested from across the web. These companies train their models using everything from blog posts and news stories to photographs, music, and even user comments, almost all of it gathered without formal consent or compensation for the creators behind it. This data is the lifeblood of AI. Without it, AI systems would be far less accurate, creative, or useful. But now, the era of take first, ask later is facing its most serious challenge yet. Cloudflare's new policy means that the default state of the internet is changing. Instead of AI bots being free to crawl and gather data, they must now ask for access. More importantly, website owners and creators finally have a real say in who can use their intellectual property and under what terms. Why does this matter? To understand the stakes, let's rewind and look at how we arrived at this crossroads. Artificial intelligence, as we know it, is only as capable as the data it consumes. Over the past decade, the AI arms race has been fueled by an insatiable appetite for information. The better the data, the smarter the model. High-quality content, thoughtful journalism, expert how-to guides, stunning artwork, and even heated online debates shapes the very DNA of modern AI. These algorithms learn not only facts, but also nuance, context, and creativity by ingesting the output of millions of human minds. Matthew Prince, CEO of Cloudflare, captured the mood succinctly. We need to give publishers control and build a new economic model that works for everyone in the age of AI. For years, unless a bot was flagged as malicious, think hackers or spammers, it could silently harvest content and disappear, leaving creators none the wiser. Now with Cloudflare's update, every website under its protective umbrella can decide which, if any, AI companies are allowed to access their digital assets. This is not just a small technical tweak. It is, in many ways, the opening salvo in a global contest for control over the world's most valuable resource, information. On one side are the AI companies, desperately seeking the raw materials that fuel their ever more powerful models. On the other are the creators and publishers, determined to reclaim their intellectual property and demand a fair share in the AI gold rush. Stay with us, because what happens next will shape not just the next chapter of the internet, but the very fabric of how knowledge, creativity, and opportunity are distributed in society. To envision the future, let's explore several scenarios experts are debating today. First, imagine a world of walled gardens. In this scenario, only the biggest technology giants, think Alphabet, Microsoft, and Meta, or the wealthiest media conglomerates can afford to license content for AI training. Smaller publishers, independent journalists, and individual creators would find themselves shut out, unable to negotiate meaningful deals or enforce their rights. James Barber, director at GoUp, warns that AI content scraping is creating a digital divide, where small businesses are less incentivized to produce rich content due to lack of returns. This is not just theoretical. Already we see the signs. Major publishers are banding together to negotiate with AI companies, while smaller sites struggle to even get a response. The risk is clear, a two-tier internet, where only those who can afford to play reap the benefits of the AI revolution. Alternatively, these new digital borders could force the creation of ethical data marketplaces. Picture a future where every article, image, or song is digitally tagged with clear usage rights. AI companies would be legally required to pay creators before using their work, much like how Spotify pays musicians or Netflix pays for film rights. Neil Vogel of Meredith suggests that this system would finally let publishers limit access to AI partners willing to play by the rules, opening up a new economic model for the digital age, a model where creativity is rewarded, not exploited. But these changes bring real risks. If too many sites block access, we could see a less open, more fragmented internet. AI models may be forced to rely only on data they can buy, leading to bias, lower quality, and stagnation in innovation. The richness and diversity of the web, its greatest strength, could be lost, replaced by a sanitized pay-to-play ecosystem. Regulators know the stakes are high. The European Union's AI Act, which comes into effect in July of 2025, requires companies to be completely transparent about their training data. In the United States, courts and lawmakers are closing in on unauthorized scraping, and the number of lawsuits has already jumped by 40% in the first half of this year compared to the previous year. Additionally, the United States Copyright Office is conducting an in-depth study on the implications of AI for copyright law, with major policy recommendations expected soon. Meanwhile, international organizations like the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development are mediating talks on global norms for AI data scraping, recognizing that these battles cross borders and require coordinated solutions. For viewers like you, what does all this mean? If you run a website, Cloudflare's update puts more power and more responsibility in your hands. You can now decide who accesses your content and on what terms. This new leverage could be turned into revenue streams through licensing deals or strategic partnerships, but it also means you must stay informed about evolving regulations and carefully consider the risks of blocking too much or too little. Overly aggressive blocking could limit your reach, while too much openness could expose your content to exploitation. If you're a creator, whether you write, draw, photograph, or compose music, this new ecosystem could finally give you leverage. No longer must you watch your work disappear into the black box of an AI model without your consent. Kristen Heitman from the Associated Press highlights that this important framework will help ensure intellectual property is protected and content creators are fairly compensated for their work. The promise is simple: a fairer deal for those who fuel the internet's creativity. For the everyday internet user, the stakes may seem invisible, but they are enormous. The information you rely on, news, reviews, tutorials, and even social media, could become more reliable as creators are incentivized to produce quality content. But if access fragments, the breadth of information available could narrow, shaped by whoever can afford to participate in these new data markets. The risk is that the internet, once a wild, open frontier, could become a patchwork of private fiefdoms and paywalls. Let's pause for a moment and consider the broader context. The history of technology is filled with battles over access and control. In the early days of the web, information flowed freely because the cost of distribution was nearly zero. Anyone with a computer and an idea could reach a global audience. But as the value of digital content grew, so did the incentives for gatekeeping. From the rise of paywalls in journalism to the emergence of subscription streaming platforms, we have seen time and again how new technologies disrupt old business models, and how old power structures fight to retain their influence. The battle over AI data scraping is just the latest chapter in this ongoing story. Experts point out parallels to the music industry's struggles with file sharing in the early 2000s. Back then, platforms like Napster allowed music to circulate freely, but at the expense of artists' livelihoods. It was only after years of lawsuits, negotiations, and new business models that a balance was struck, one where artists could earn a living and listeners could access content conveniently and legally. Could AI be entering its own Napster moment? Many believe so. The difference is that AI's appetite for data is even greater, and the consequences even more far-reaching. We are not just talking about music or movies, but the sum total of human knowledge, creativity, and experience. Consider also the rise of new legal frameworks. In California, a new law takes effect on the 1st of January 2025, requiring companies to clearly disclose the use of AI-generated content to consumers. The United States Congress is actively debating a federal data privacy bill, which could put strict limits on how companies collect and use personal information, including for AI training. These changes reflect a growing recognition that the rules of the digital age must evolve to protect both innovation and individual rights. Meanwhile, the number of lawsuits related to AI data scraping has soared by 40% in the first half of 2025 compared to the same period last year. This surge reflects mounting frustration among creators and publishers who are increasingly willing to take their grievances to court. At the same time, companies like Human Security are expanding their bot mitigation services, offering new tools to help website owners control which bots, if any, can access their data. Internationally, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has become a key forum for developing global standards on AI data scraping. With dozens of countries participating, these talks aim to create a balance between fostering innovation and upholding ethical and legal standards. The hope is that a patchwork of national laws can be harmonized into a coherent global framework, reducing uncertainty for companies and creators alike. So, where does all this lead? The future of AI data scraping is uncertain, with several possible scenarios unfolding in parallel. In one scenario, we see a technological arms race. AI companies deploy ever more sophisticated scrapers, while publishers and tech firms build ever stronger defenses. The result could be a cat-and-mouse game, with both sides investing vast resources and outsmarting the other. In this world, only the largest players can keep up, leaving smaller sites vulnerable or irrelevant. In another scenario, stricter regulations and legal threats stifle innovation. AI companies, unable to access the data they need, slow their development or focus only on narrow, proprietary datasets. This could lead to less capable AI systems, reducing the benefits that AI brings to society, from medical research breakthroughs to smarter productivity tools. Yet, there is hope for a more balanced outcome. The emergence of ethical data marketplaces could transform the landscape, allowing creators to license their work on fair terms and ensuring AI companies have access to diverse, high-quality data. This would require robust legal frameworks, transparent standards, and a willingness from all sides to compromise. But if achieved, it could usher in a new golden age of creativity and innovation, where both AI and human creators thrive. And let's not forget the human element. Victoria Lapanite from Oxylabs reminds us that the legality of web scraping depends on the nature of the data, the methods used, and the intended purpose. Ethical web scraping respects the ecosystem. In other words, technology alone cannot solve these challenges. Values, ethics, and trust will play a decisive role. For ordinary internet users, the changes may unfold slowly, but the impact will be profound. You may notice that some familiar websites offer fewer free articles or require you to register to access content. You might find AI-generated summaries becoming more accurate, or, conversely, less reliable if the underlying data becomes scarce. The search for trustworthy information could become more challenging, or, if the new system works, dramatically easier. What can you do to prepare? If you create content, stay informed about your rights and the tools available to protect your work. Consider joining industry groups or advocacy organizations that are shaping the new rules of the digital economy. If you manage a website, review your policies and consider partnerships that align with your values and business goals. And as a consumer, pay attention to disclosure policies, support creators whose work you value, and demand transparency from the platforms you use. Ultimately, the struggle over who controls data and who profits from it is about more than just technology. It's about the kind of internet we want to build. Open or closed, fair or exploitative, dynamic or stagnant. Cloudflare's move to block AI bots by default is a bold step toward rebalancing the scales, but the outcome will depend on how governments, businesses, and individuals respond in the months and years ahead. Here's a fascinating fact. Cloudflare's network handles nearly 1/5 of all global internet traffic. That means this change isn't just a minor adjustment, it's a seismic shift, with ripple effects that will be felt across every corner of the digital world. From Silicon Valley boardrooms to artist studios, from courtrooms in Brussels to classrooms in Bangalore, the consequences will shape how we create, share, and learn in the information age. So, what do you think? Should AI companies have to pay for the data they use, or does this risk slowing progress for everyone? Is the promise of a more ethical, equitable internet worth the potential costs to innovation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the world where technology